Greetings, hello, and welcome to Equal First, the podcast about balancing self and service in life and love through career connections and courage. I'm Rob Farker, your humble host, who hopes that by seeking out the connections and wisdom that I need in order to put folks equal first with myself, I can help you, my listeners, and possibly watchers as well, figure out how to step into life more fully. This particular episode is brought to you in conjunction with the Sci-Fi Sleep channel on Twitch and the Exploring the Digital Frontier channel on YouTube, as well as in it. Yes, fine, they're both me, okay? Happy now? Good, lovely, fantastic. Anyway, as I was saying, and in association with the Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand Squadron. It is good fun to finally get to have a proper geek out with someone who is enjoying my hobby. Tavares is one of the organisers and managers of the Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand Squadron. Based out of the Kunti system, this squadron is the original, largest and most active group of Australians and New Zealanders in Elite Dangerous, an online space trading science fiction video game that celebrated its 10th anniversary last year, being 2024 if you happen to be listening far in the future. The same year that the Elite franchise as a whole celebrated its 40th anniversary, with the original game Elite launching on platforms as venerable as the Apple II, the Amstrad, the BBC Micro, the Commodore 64, and several others back in September 1984. The focus of Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand is PvE, or Player versus Environment, a cooperative game mode that emphasises playing against a computer-driven world rather than competing directly against other human beings in active combat. The primary objective of the group is always to have a mate or two ready to fly with. This coming Sunday, the 26th of January in 2025, is Australia Day, the annual public holiday to commemorate, for better or worse, the arrival of the first fleet in what came to be known as Sydney Cove back in 1788, 6 days after the majority of the fleet arrived in Botany Bay. It's a significant national occasion, and I wanted to make sure to put an episode out in conjunction. And what better way to combine Australia Day with my own love of sleek futures and cool machines by chatting with someone whose focus is getting involved in what can be a very complex game as easy and as welcoming as possible for all his fellow Kuntis out there. So, Tavares, thank you very much for your time and coming on the Equal First podcast.
Thank you very much.
Now, I don't know if you're familiar with a classic science fiction TV show called Babylon 5.
I am familiar.
Okay, well, you will probably then recognise the three core questions, which I tend to base the broader question set of this show around as the main ones from Babylon 5. So we'll start off with asking them in the right order, of course, because we don't want to cause a galaxy-wide conflagration. Who are you? Who is the person whom you enjoy seeing in the mirror today? How would you describe yourself as you are right now?
Well, I'm Tavares. I've always been naturally curious about the world around me, big into my horticulture, I'm a musician, and a very big space nerd.
Okay, hang on. Horticulture and musicianship, those are two things that usually don't seem to line up with being a big-time space nerd. I mean, how did they all, do you remember how you got involved in them each?
Well, say the horticulture sort of side, being a big space nerd, obviously there's going to be planets out there with potentially plants, things like that, and just that sort of curiosity, what would they be like?
Indeed. And do you remember when you first picked up an instrument or started using your own pipes?
So started playing music very late high school. Up until that point, was never very interested in it. And one day decided I wanted to be in a band. 20 years later, still going.
So, same band as back then, or have there been,
various different projects. There's been a main one for the last 10, 15 years. a few side projects here and there, going from the band stuff. Also do a bit of cinematic music, a bit of orchestral sort of stuff. Like to dabble in lots of different things.
God, I'm quite envious. I mean, I've tried piano and keyboard, but could piano and guitar, I should say, but could never quite make the interest stick. So, the fact that you've gotten so thoroughly into it, as well as being, from the looks of things, an avid gamer as well. Do you remember what your first experience with a video game was?
It would have to have been Wolfenstein 3D, playing with my dad.
Fantastic. So it's all your dad's fault in this case.
Yes, you're getting sort of drawn into that sort of first-person perspective and running around these different worlds. I've just always enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, I remember Wolfenstein 3D from back in the day. Funnily enough, I turned 7 when the original Elite came out, but I never got my hands on it. So I kind of missed out that original Elite era and the 2 sequels, and it was only really until Elite Dangerous came out that I started getting involved. So yeah, how long have you been a fan of the Elite franchise?
It's about early 2016 I first came across it. I was just sort of browsing different gaming articles, and I came across one from Eurogamer that spoke about this 1-to-1 Milky Way sized galaxy space game, where at the time engineering had just come into the game and the NPCs were creating their own super weapons and absolutely destroying players as they went along. And I found it really fascinating, particularly that you were in that first person perspective and flying your own spaceship. And because prior to that, I'd been playing a lot of Kerbal Space Program, Star Trek Online for many years, and those games didn't have quite what Elite has, particularly with actually flying a spaceship with controls and going anywhere you wanted was quite fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Star Trek Bridge Commander kind of came out, the tagline was like, you have the con, and you're the person who is in the captain's chair. And there's a bit of me going, yeah, but that means, you're just telling other people how to fly the ship. There was a game back in the mid-80s, I don't think it was Elite, I think it was something else, but that kind of tried to give that similar sort of, you are in the cockpit of a spaceship and flying it around. I wish I could remember for the life of me what it was, but after that, for me, the first experience after that was Wing Commander, and yeah, that kind of got its hooks into me and never let me go. And I'm kind of torn because the reason why I got into Elite Dangerous was because I was looking to get that Wing Commander privateer experience back, being able to have a ship of your own and not just fly combat missions, but go wherever you wanted to go with it and make your own choices as to how to upgrade the ship or which other ship you wanted to buy. When I found out about Elite Dangerous, it really did seem like the first game really since Privateer that I felt like would give that experience back. I remember I tried Freelancer for a little bit, which was the guy who was behind Wing Commander, Chris Roberts' last big project before Star Citizen came out into early access and has remained there for the better part of a decade. Yeah, but it really does, Elite Dangerous really does scratch that being in the cockpit of your ship and flying it where you want to take it and doing the things you want to do with it.
Yeah, but most definitely. And when Frontier say blaze your own trail, you can do that. You can go see that point of light in the sky and you can fly to it. And then you can keep going, or you can go mining, you can do trade, you just wander around planets and take in the sights. It's truly amazing what they've put together and continues to be so with the additions over the years.
Yeah, it is incredible how rich it's got. And I think one of the things that really hooked me back into the game when I decided to give it another go last year, as I kind of went through this re-embracement and renaissance of my joy of science fiction and seeing where it took me. And it took me back into video gaming, and then it brought me back into, I was kind of hemming and hawing between Elite and Star Citizen and wondering if I can do both. And yeah, when I tried Star Citizen, and just before the last big patch came out, they had a free weekend, and I found I was struggling to just get out of the damn apartment that I spawned into. Everyone was kind of saying, it's really, you're with Star Citizen, you're paying to be their beta tester. And I suppose, given that's a known thing, fair enough. But really, there's somebody going, I'll wait until 1.0 comes out. I'll hold off until they give us a stable experience. And yeah, it was just this that got me back in. But I always felt one thing that did somewhat frustrate me. I did love the in-cockpit experience of Elite Dangerous, but it did feel as though that when I landed my ship on a station, even though I could do everything I needed to from the onboard ship interface, it still felt like there was something missing in not just being able to get out of my ship and have a wander around. And thankfully, with the Odyssey expansion, it gave me that. And yeah, even though there is this bit in the back of my mind going, why are you bothering to get out of the ship? You'll probably save time just by staying in and doing that. But I always get out and wander.
Yeah, it gives you that freedom of choice that you can spend a whole session or two just in the ship, or you can go land on a planet, out on foot, walk around, see the sights. It's definitely a great complement to the space portion of the game.
Indeed. And the thought occurs, get shot at.
Yes.
Although it's not so much getting shot at, you take a mission and you invite the shooting at you, and yeah, it just hasn't worked out too well for me. Although I will say, part of the problem, I'm sure, is that last time I took a mission, the first time I took a mission on, I forgot that I could actually I had personal shields that I could turn on. Second time I still wound up dead, but anyway.
Yes, yeah, I've done the same.
Indeed. Now, one of the things I do want to talk to you about is that as we are discussing this at the moment, within the game, you are currently sitting on board what is called a fleet carrier.
That is correct.
So for people listening along, can you tell them, people who are not necessarily familiar with Elite Dangerous, what is a fleet carrier and what does owning one involve?
The fleet carrier is essentially a mobile space station. You can store all your ships and modules on there, materials, commodities, and then you can almost freely move it wherever you want. So it's a great place to stage operations from. Say if we're doing a Friday night bounty hunting event, we can move it to that location. Everyone can access it, get their rearm, refuel, repairs, whatever they need. And it's just giving you that sort of sense of, this is all my stuff and I can move it where I want, which is quite nice.
Yeah, as much as a ship with an Elite is kind of a mobile home, it really does seem to be the proper mobile home, or at least mobile garage.
Yes.
As the case may be. I did make a note. Oversized garage for spare parts. And how big is your fleet of ships that I assume you are garaging on board?
You can fit up to 40 on the carrier, and in total I think I've got around 70 odd ships. A few that are work in progress that I need to get it back around to finishing off. Others I want to build as well, and some more serious dedicated role-based ships, and then just a few bits of fun here and there. It's like, what if I put this on this one, and see how it goes.
Now, how did you become involved with Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand? Were you one of... I rember playing it in 2016 and coming across, I think, at least one Australian group. I'm not sure if it was... I don't think it was EDANZ. It may have been another one, but when did you get involved? Were you one of the founders?
So not a founder, but very early on. So I started playing around early 2016. I think they had started the group maybe the year before during the base game. So I came in very early Horizons. I was flying around for a little bit and just sort of wondering who else is out there. So I started doing a bit of a search around and came across a Steam group of a bunch of people who were playing in all Australia and New Zealand. So I joined up with them, started chatting with them, met them in game. From there, made the Facebook group, then the Discord server, Nanara, and from there it's sort of just grown over the years.
Well, looking back on that growth, how do you see yourself within the group now, aside from any hierarchy or structure? What is your personal purpose as part of EDANZ?
Mainly just to continue the growth that we've had over the last 10 years, welcoming in new players, returning players, essentially just sort of crafting a place that they can call home.
Sounds good. And one thing I am curious about, especially from the fleet carrier standpoint, a couple of weeks ago, one of the team, I don't think it was yourself, but I could be wrong, wound up making a fleet carrier available in one of the systems around Kunti. Fleet carriers, one of the resources that they require is tritium, and I believe that is needed in order to fire up the interstellar jump drive of the fleet carrier.
Yes,
is that right?
so tritium is the fuel that the carriers use. A full tank, 1,000 tons, 1,000 units, and that allows you to then jump the maximum of 500 light years per jump.
Wow.
So a big thing, particularly your normal ships that can do maybe between 30 to 80 light years. Yeah, it can definitely get out there a lot faster and also take a whole fleet out, or a fleet, or your commanders. So in the past, we've done trips out to Colonia, which, for those who don't know, is on the other side of the galaxy. So we've loaded all the fuel up, loaded all the ships and all the commanders, and then basically over the course of a few days, slowly jump this out there. And then we've got a place of operations where we can then go take in the sites, unlock the engineers that are out there, and then if those commanders were wanting to, they could jump back on the carrier for the return trip or slowly make their way back via exploration.
Sounds like the ultimate convoy / caravan trip.
It was quite eventful.
I can imagine. So yeah, therefore keeping the fleet carrier in resources, while I assume it's something that you might be able to do solo, it really can be a community effort. Would that be right?
They're definitely been intended to be more of a per player in-game asset, but the way we've generally treated ours within the squadron is as a squadron asset. So there's my one, which is always generally local to where we're doing any local activities. Another guy, he's got all the anti-Xeno ships on, so when we're doing the Thargoid War, that would always be on the front line, ready to go, so you didn't have to worry about, I need to get a combat ship out there that's got very little jump range. And yeah, just sort of treating it more as a collective of squadron assets that everyone can access.
Indeed. Now, what exactly, I think we kind of went through the what do you want question, even though I didn't explicitly state it as such. But moving on to the third of Babylon 5's big three questions, why are you here? So what does the day-to-day work of a community manager within the EDANZ group look like? What are the things that you find yourself doing?
So there's a lot of processing of new applicants, getting people up to speed, creating events. Very little in the way of moderation we need to do, because everyone in the server is pretty good. We take a lot of feedback from our community, which has helped shape what we've become and where we are going. We're also very lucky to have a lot of very dedicated members who invest a lot of time into running the BGS for the faction, running the Thargoid events during the Thargoid War. We've got a lot of veterans who have been around for a long time who are willing to help out new commanders or returning commanders and just help them get a start in the game. So we're very lucky in that aspect where it's a lot of different cogs in the machine and very well oiled, and everyone comes together and yeah, we have a great time doing it.
Now, again, for someone not familiar with Elite Dangerous, what does BGS stand for and what does it mean?
BGS, or Background Simulator, is all of the different in-game factions, if it's a player faction or a NPC faction, and how they relate to the inhabited part of the galaxy as a whole. So if you pick up a mission from one faction, it'll go to another one in a different star system, and that'll affect its influence and your reputation with them. Same with trading goods. And it's this very complex clockwork of different star systems and different mechanics, different game loops, and it all comes together within the BGS.
So from the sounds of it, it pretty much is responsible for, in a way, in broad strokes at least, creating the equivalent of the broader mechanics pardon me, nudging my own microphone there, creating the broader mechanics of the world that we live in, things like access to resources and economics and political entities, all that kind of thing, whilst making them perhaps in some ways a little bit more engaging than they are in real life.
Yes, definitely.
And a couple of other terms I do want to make sure I clarify, one of which, apologies to my listeners, you did mention a little while ago, you did mention Horizons, and I'm pretty sure that was the first expansion for Elite Dangerous, wasn't it? Where they actually introduced the ability to actually land on planets and take a six-wheeler all-terrain buggy around if you wanted to.
Yes, that's correct. Up until that point, all we really had was the in-ship stuff. You could fly around the planets, but you could never actually land on it. And then Horizons came in, which granted us to do that, and it also brought in the engineering update.
Which, again, this is something that I am slowly working my way toward experiencing. The engineers are a bunch of non-player characters who, if you do enough missions for them, allow you to get some fairly unique and powerful upgrades for the components that can be put inside a ship that you can fly. Would that be a pretty good summary?
Pretty good, yeah. Anything that allows, say, a ship to jump further, boost faster, more DPS on the weapons, better scanners, things like that. So you can take a basic ship and turn it into something really special.
And DPS is damage per second, right?
Yes.
No worries. And, of course, what are the Thargoids?
So Thargoids are a alien race that we came across a few years ago. Up until that point, they had been in the earlier games, but in the iteration of Elite Dangerous, we hadn't seen them when that first came out. And what had happened was one day a commander was flying through space and was hyperdicted, so pulled out of space between a jump between two systems. And next thing, there was this big flower-looking thing staring him down, shut his whole ship down, gave him a scan and moved on. And then from there, they started getting a bit more aggressive towards us, and that sort of sparked the last few major events in game, which culminated into the Second Thargoid War.
And I've seen some of those videos online with these massive, as you say, they look like giant flowers, and I keep trying to think of, I've heard so many wonderful tongue-in-cheek names for these things, and all of a sudden my mind is just going, yeah, nah, I think murder something, something or other, something else that starts with P and then posies, and it's not working. But yeah, these 8 massive alien vessels, which I think got called Titans in the game, advancing to various places around human-occupied space, with the last of them even penetrating as far in as to get to our own solar system and pose a direct threat to Earth.
Yeah, and they were impressive when you first came across one, and when we finally breached the outer maelstrom cloud and you saw this vessel. It was one of those moments that I'll never forget in game, where you're just absolutely taken back by the immense size of this thing.
Sounds almost like, if you're familiar with that wonderful 90s movie Independence Day, the moment when the City Destroyer saucer above New York just comes, the edge of it comes out of the massive cloud that it was inside. Except you weren't just watching it on a movie screen, you were playing the game and being a part of it directly.
Yes, and everything at that time and recently has been happening in-game in real time. So to the point where we finally got to attack these things head on and destroy it, and we end up getting a in-game countdown where the thing would go into meltdown and then explode in real time. And witnessing things like that was just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and they made sure to give you 24 hours between when the meltdown started and when it finished, so you could at least get the word out and get as many spectators around it as possible to watch the big boom.
Get a good seat, grab the popcorn, and wait for its impending doom.
So, tell me a little bit more about, and I apologise for in some ways asking you to keep pick your favourites, and there are always people whom you forget, but can you tell me a little bit more about the folks in the Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand group. Who do you work with in order to keep the group on an even keel and looking out for its members and giving us more stuff to do?
So we've got a core team of the leadership. So you've got Acton, who has been absolutely phenomenal in writing certain bots and scripts that helps us do the day-to-day tasks. We've got moderators such as Drunk Frodo, Kilfear, Mirahiku. You've got Chudwump, who's been a core member in writing a lot of the FAQs, getting a lot of that information that's out there on the internet and actually bringing it into a central place and making sure at the same time that it's actually relevant information, where you may come across guides from several years ago and might not be the case anymore. So having this core group just helps us really run that day-to-day stuff. And then on top of that, we've got the BGS managers who are ensuring that the different wars and elections are being won, kept up to date. If something comes up, we've got these people who can then pass the information on to us. And then not to mention the Thargoid war managers, who were really key in structuring and delivering those sort of events and strategic sort of outcomes during the Thargoid war.
And I mean, that is one thing that does interest me in particular about Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand, because it's not just a squadron or a Discord group or, as you mentioned, a group within the Steam community system, but in its own way, it is a power block within the Elite Dangerous universe. Now, of course, this is without trying to get you to divulge any political secrets or anything. And I do understand from looking at the group that the details of the interface with the background simulation is a thing that is not to be shared out. Does the group have an overall kind of goal or objective within its influence within and on the background simulation?
I think it primarily comes down to what the original founders set, and that's creating an area of space where our commanders can feel safe and welcome. They can run missions if they want. They can help take other star systems, defend if we need to. And just having our own sort of sandpit that we can play in amongst the broader sandbox of the...
Sounds very good. And yeah, especially in a rather large and hostile universe, as not just Elite Dangerous can be, but also, sad to say, online gaming in general can be. It is nice to have a bit of a zone where at least you know your odds of getting jumped by a griefer or human being pirate within the game are minimal. There was another question that was asked right at the end of Babylon 5, which is, where are you going? And what are the things, starting with Elite Dangerous, absolutely, which has had it feels like in some ways an incredible year, what with the Thargoid War being a driver of interest in the game and to a certain extent publicity about the game, but also with the rollout of, after a bit of a dry spell, these 4 new player purchasable spaceships and the concurrent idea of making pre-built, purpose-built ships available for purchase using the premium currency within the game ARC. And especially what with the talk of the colonization scheme coming into play sometime this year in 2025, what are the things that you're looking forward to within Elite Dangerous, for starters, and within the Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand community?
So primarily at the moment, we're looking towards that next big update with colonization and how it's going to affect us as a squadron. So what we're sort of looking into is scouting out good locations within our own area of space, where I think a lot of other commanders are very eager to move out of the inhabited space, out of the bubble, and just sort of push how far they can get themselves. So we're more looking at that sort of consolidation where we can sort of keep the existing area we've got, but build upon that. At the same time, looking at setting up logistics by using our fleet carriers. So if someone doesn't own one but wants to set up a star system, we're going to have the ability to load these things up, move it to the location, offload it, get people underway, and just using it more of a community-based sort of self-expansion via the colonization.
Sounds like a fantastic way of supporting the community and enabling them to experience the things that they might not otherwise be able to experience within the game without a lot of personal effort.
Yeah, definitely. We do try, and we have always tried to not so much expedite someone's progress in the game, but to support them.
Now, taking a slightly more broader view to Tavares as the Renaissance man that he is, who enjoys biology and botany and music as much as space and science fiction, what are some other things that you yourself are looking forward to?
Just more of good games, meeting more great people. I've met a lot of really, really nice people through our community. Obviously, we're based throughout Australia and New Zealand, but we have been lucky enough that because we get along so well, if a bunch of us are in town, we can go down to the pub, go have a bite to eat, meet in real life, have some drinks, and stuff like that.
I'm going to have to see if I can organise something with any of the Sydney side folks at some point. Yeah, just put a thing up in the group and say, hey, actually, anyone fancy getting together in person and see what happens?
Yeah, and we've quite regularly done this over my part of the world. Others have done that in their states, and it's great actually getting to put a face to the voice.
Indeed. Now, if someone, after hearing this episode, wanted to find out a bit more about the Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand community, what would be the best ways to do so?
Quite easily by joining our Discord, which I can provide you with the link if you want to put that up. There's also via our Inara page. So you just got to search up either EDA Conti League or Elite Dangerous AU and NZ. It's got all the relevant links to the Discord, the Facebook page, and they're quite easily to get in contact with.
Fantastic. And look, there is one question that I've been meaning to ask and I keep forgetting to. Where does Tavares come from, if anywhere?
So, back when I used to play a lot of Star Trek Online, I played a Vulcan character.
I kind of suspected.
Yes, and so that's where that originally came from, and it's just kind of stuck around since then. And once I had sort of slowed off playing that game and I needed to create a commander name, I thought it was just perfect.
No, it is pretty cool, I will say. Well, Tavares of the Elite Dangerous Australia and New Zealand League, it has been a good fun geek out chat about Elite Dangerous, a little bit about science fiction, and hopefully, with any luck, we might be able to get a few more people on board. I know, thanks to doing a little bit of streaming of Elite Dangerous recently, I did get one of my local friends actually keen to try. She just needs to get her proper internet connection back, and maybe a semi-decent PC again. We'll see how we go, but it's been fun getting to know you guys, and I'm looking forward to especially after I just blitzed my profile recently and decided to have a clean slate. Experiencing everything that this game has to offer, one measured bit at a time, I think.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.